Okay, so today we have our class number 5 in Quilombo Bilingue conversation class. And last class we talked about World Africa Day, which is celebrated on May 25th. And it was very important because we had a chance to talk about lots of African celebrations, among which we discussed the importance of Kwanzaa. So Kwanzaa was a celebration created by the historian, the African-American historian called Maulana Karenga. Maulana Karenga, let me put his name here in the chat box. Um, Maulana Karenga is a very important scholar for Black people who want to learn about their history, their ancestry, and their African roots. So this professor studies the core principles of African civilizations. And he came to the conclusion that there are 7 principles that are predominant in many different ethnicities and many different ethnic groups in the African continent. And those 7 principles are celebrated in this festivity, which is called Kwanzaa. These principles are called Ndugu Haba. Yeah, so the perfect principles. And this is very interesting because this celebration lasts 7 days. So in each day, you celebrate one of the principles. And people celebrate this in different ways. Some people sing some kinds of songs. Other people just sit together and reflect about the principle that is celebrated on that specific day. Other people have a more ritualistic approach. So they have something called kinara. A kinara is a candle made of 7 candles in which they have different colors, and each candle symbolizes one of the principles of Kwanzaa. So you have a black candle in the middle, uh, 3 uh, red candles to the right, and 3 green candles to the left. So green, black, and red are the colors of the um, Pan-African movements. Yeah, because the idea is that all Africans are one. So this is the idea that Pan-Africans believe. So in this celebration, we try to reflect upon the importance of those principles. So the first day of the celebration is on December 26th, and it finishes on January 1st. So the idea is that you start the new year just with all those principles in mind so that you can live throughout the year according to your ancestry. So it's a very interesting philosophy, very interesting approach. So the first principle is called umoja. So
The
umoja,
direct Umoja.
exactly. Umoja
Okay.
is unity. So the idea is that we are connected to our family, connected to our community, connected to our people, and connected to our ancestors. So this is a principle that we should be together with our family, people, community, and ancestors. So by people, they mean your ethnic group. So here in Brazil, this is a problem because most of us have no idea of which people we belong to. I myself, for example, had to take a genetic test to discover where exactly I come from in Africa. So I came to the conclusion that I come from the Bantu people. So which come from Nigeria, areas of Nigeria. So I started learning this, and it was very nice because I could practice this umoja by looking for um, traditions, habits, spiritual views of the Yoruba people from Nigeria, and then I could learn a little bit more about my origins. So, what about you guys? Have you taken this genetic test to figure out where you came from? Do you know about those tests? Have you heard about them?
Yes, I did it with Janetta
Wow, nice.
because our past was we don't know now nothing about it, and I had this necessity to know something about my family, and
Mhm.
I did it this year.
Wow, amazing. Yeah, really nice. It's important, yeah, to get to know our roots, our origins. And this is exactly the movement that Dr. Maulana Karenga inspired us to take, because schools will not do this for us. Public policies will not as well. Religion, forget about it. Christianity, no chance. So we have to take this step. And that's why the second principle of Kwanzaa is called Kujichagulia, which means self-determination, because you cannot wait for people to give you. You have to go and get it yourself. Yeah. So that's why self-determination is the second principle, because if you don't take responsibility for your self-discovery, nobody will give you that. Yeah, and we know that school, we have the law to teach Afro-Brazilian religion and culture at schools, but nobody respects that. Most teachers are Catholic or Protestant, so they don't have respect for African origins. They believe African traditions are evil spirits, dark spirits, black magic. They have those ideas, you know. So we cannot depend on those people to learn about who we are. So how can you expect black empowerment from a racist teacher? This is never going to happen. So we definitely, as families, have to take this movement. But Brazilian families have no access to information because most of those information come in English. For example, I learned about Kwanzaa reading English books and websites. So 8 to 10%, no, 8 to 10% of the percentage of Brazilians, Black Brazilians who attend school can speak English. 8 to 10% of all Black Brazilians who attend school have some access to English. So we are talking about few Blacks in Brazil who can speak English. So those people, if nobody translates this material, they will never have access to this. So we, in Pais Pretos Presentes community, we came to the conclusion that we have to teach those principles on a regular basis. So every week, we have a masterclass about one principle so that people can have some kind of access to those. And also Black books, like the ones we are going to talk about today, which is The Spirit of Intimacy by Sobonfu Somé. So this is our topic for today. But before that, Luciano raised his hand, so feel free to talk.
Okay. In fact, I'd like to make a question again. But I didn't understand how can I do the text to
Yeah,
discover where I did I came from.
yeah,
How to
there are
do the
plenty.
test.
Uh-huh. Actually, there are plenty of tests. Genera is the most famous because they made some kinds of partnerships with lots of labs. For example, Brownstein, they have a partnership. They have a partnership with Eliel Figueiredo, which is another big lab here in Brazil. And there is another one. I think it's just Labs. The name Labs. They had a partnership with Labs as well. So when you go to those places, you can see a banner of Genera, and then you can, approach those initiatives, and they have two kinds of tests. One is by swab, the same kinds of exam we took to check for coronavirus. Yeah, when they would collect from your nose or saliva, is one possibility. And another one is a blood test. They use your blood. Yeah, so these are the two ways. I think the blood test is more expensive, and the swab using saliva is cheaper, but it goes from 200 price to 600, depending on the kind of test you take, because there is one that is just to give you an idea of the area where you came from, and there is another one which is the most expensive that gives you an idea of your risk, the diseases that you should be more careful about because of your genetic heritage, sorry. So like diabetes or heart conditions or circulation problems or neurologic tendencies to develop Alzheimer or Parkinson's disease, something like this, you know. And this one is the most complete one, therefore a little bit more expensive, yeah. But it is really important for us, especially us Brazilians, because we don't have access to those this kind of information, you know. So because I could access this, and I saw that one of the reasons why people are so conflicting, so, what is the best word? So, I don't know, but I don't know if you see that, but I noticed that when lots of Black people get together, usually there is a tendency of trying to reaffirming who you are, reassuring who you are by diminishing or reducing the other. There is like a tendency to prove you are better, you know more, you know, prove that you are the one. Every time we live in Rio de Janeiro, and every time my wife and I go to a Black festival, we have this impression that people want to, I don't know, but compete, you know, with others. And in Rio de Janeiro, at least. So this happens because people see themselves the same way white people programmed them to see themselves. But Black heritage gives another perspective. We are not here to compete. We are here to collaborate. That's why umoja is the first principle, unity. We should be together. So it doesn't make sense for me to look down on you because you're not wearing Adidas shirts, or because you don't have a Nike cap, or you don't have a Balenciaga shoes or whatever. But Black people do this a lot here in my city. If you're not wearing this or that, then they try to look down on you. And this is really complicated because it makes it harder for us to practice those principles Dr. Marlana Karenga wanted us to cultivate. So we saw as a group that we have to try to stimulate people to get to know those scholars. And this is an education job. Yeah, it's in English, we call social education, is when you're trying to make important information known by a large group, in our case, Black people. So we try to have on a regular basis, on a weekly basis, classes about those principles. So this month of June, we will be discussing the principle of Ujima, which is exactly principle number 3, just right after Kujichagulia. Kujichagulia was the last one. And Ujima, which means collective work and collective responsibility, will be the next one. And wow, there is a principle. One of the principles of African tradition is called synchronicity. Synchronicity principle says that there is no luck, there is no coincidence, there is no chance in life. Everything which happen because it should happen, and happen when they should happen, because they should happen, and where they should happen. There is not like a chance or luck or accidents. There is no such a thing according to African wisdom. Yeah. So while I was talking to you about this, I have just arrived, I just received here the image, the arts of the class, the Ujima class. And I was thinking, oh my God, what a coincidence, but it's not a coincidence. So I'm going to show you the banner that I have just received from our designer. And to talk about this, yeah, next Sunday, this class will be at 4 o'clock. So we will be meeting at 4 to talk about Ujima. And this will be really, really nice. So I will share with you the art, and it's really cool. So why did it stop to talk about this? Because we don't have a reference from Black ancestors. We see ourselves the way white people program us to see ourselves, based on competition, based on separation, and then we don't have this connection. We need education. We need to educate ourselves to see ourselves again as brothers and sisters. So I have to look at Luciano and see my brother Wellington and see my brother Joyce and see my sister Isabel the same way, Vanderlei as my brother. And because that's what we are. Yeah, this is the truth. And the only thing that makes us see otherwise in a different way is because in white education, what makes you special is not togetherness, is not unity. What makes you special in our culture is separation, exclusivity. So if you are exclusive, you are the one. I saw an interview another day, and they were saying that Ronaldinho, the soccer player, he has a car that there are only 4 in the planet. So they were saying, look at this guy, he has a car that only 3 other people in the planet have. So he is special because he has something that is exclusive. There is a singer here in Rio de Janeiro called MC Pose. This guy, he has an iPhone made of gold, and the price of this iPhone is 79,000 reais. It's the price of a car. And people see him as a very special guy because he has a golden iPhone. You see, this is what capitalism and white society do with us. We try to get possessions so that we feel special, and then because you are special, you separate from the others and you don't connect to people. That's why African values and African education is so important. And this is why we will be talking about this principle of Ujima, because collective responsibility is exactly making this movement of seeing myself as responsible for Joyce, Luciano, Isabella, Gabriela, Wellington, Vanderlei, and not just responsible for myself and my family. I see myself as responsible for the community, because that's why, that's how people are educated in Africa. So why in Brazil it would be different? So that's the logic. Okay, Luciano. Okay, you can
Yeah.
speak.
Okay, my connection is not so good, but I try to make another question and try to answer and try to compare Black people and American Black people. Black people here in Brazil and Black people in the United States, for example. I have an idea about it that African American people are much more connected with each other. Okay, they affirm that they are African American people. They affirm that there is a racism in the American society, and here in Brazil there is a kind of negation about it. Okay, that it's connected to what you're trying to say. Here we are not so unified, for example. In the United States, we can identify aspects related to the American and African American to connected, much more connected with them. Okay, that's my idea about it. If you consider, for example, there are a lot of American college, Black college, United States, American university, Black university, United States. Here in Brazil, have no, and so we don't have universities, just one, I think so, in São Paulo, that Universidade Palmares, I think so. I'm not sure, but the name is Universidade Palmares, I think so. But if you look at American society, United States, we can identify a lot of universities that have this word about it. Our community is here, African Black people is here, and we have to help each other. And here in Brazil are completely different, I think so. Can you identify the similarities about it?
Yeah, actually, we have some problems that they have and we do not, and problems that we have and they do not. For example, segregation, physical segregation. They had that apartheid, the South and the North, and here in Brazil, people say that we have a democracy, a racial democracy reality. So the problem about this is that when an American person talking about racism, it is way more acceptable and accepted than it is in Brazil. Because in Brazil, people say, "Oh, come on, there is no racism here. You can go everywhere you want. You can go to restaurants, you can go to stores, you can go to..."
Oh, you are not so black. We're not so black, for example.
In Brazil, people don't endorse you, but in America, they do. So this is a difficult point. And the other point is the number. They have way less Blacks than we do. Here we have 50%, 56% of the population. They have 14%, way less. So it's also another problem. Wellington, did you raise your hand?
Hi.
Hello.
I would say about this because people said, you are mixed. You know, black people.
Exactly.
Everybody is equal. But in the deep, the reality that we are some way we are whitened, but we I don't know the word, but it's not a simple process. You perceive this.
Yes.
But so is that's important, like you said, to know about our origin. Because this is affirm the reality, not about the people said for us, but what really we us.
Exactly. Isabella, did you raise your hand?
Yes, I comment that Lélia Gonzalez says about this. The racism place that the white education is the system, the hierarchies between people. Is this.
Fantastic. Yeah, so that's the idea. So we see difference in terms of importance between people. And this is something that whiteness do with us. And the problem is that because the pattern is white, we don't see this happening. We think that this is the normal, but the normal is the white's perspective. And then we don't see this. We think that's, oh, it's natural. Of course, the white is the natural because they have the power, they have the narrative. But people who don't stop to think about this, they think about the only life that exists is the life where white people are protagonists. So they never see themselves as protagonists in life. So that's why we should look to our other perspectives in terms of family, love, relationship, masculinity, how a woman can be. Is feminism the only possibility for women? So maybe we could get to know about womanism, Africana womanism, and other views on gender emancipation. So that's why for this June of Valentine's, I bought this book, which is very powerful book by Sobonfu Somé called The Spirit of Intimacy. This is an amazing book, amazing material, because she talks about love and relationships on another perspective, which is not so fantasized, and it's not the same version we get, for example, in Hollywood movies, in which you look at a person and you fall in love with that person, and then your reasoning gets completely out of control. Yeah, you are controlled by love. There is an idea in this perspective that the more you love, the less you think. The more you love, the less you criticize, the less you analyze, because love is spontaneous. Love is pervasive. So the more you love, there is less space to study, analyze, evaluate, judge, consider, choose. You don't have a choice when you love. That's what they tell us. That's what they teach us. The more you love, the less space you have to make decisions. Because if you can decide, you don't love really. That's what they tell us. And with this story, they convince us to love what they program us to love. And how do they program? How do they make this programming? Since our childhoods, when we watch those Disney cartoons, they start showing us what is meant to be beautiful, what we should think is beautiful. When we see the cartoon, for example, of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, it's a white woman. And then you see, I don't know, Sleeping Beauty is another example of blonde woman. And then you see the Little Red Riding Hoods, another white girl. And then you see Rapunzel, a blonde woman with a very long straight hair. So they give you lots of examples of what beauty is. And then, of course, you have Hendrik, a millionaire soccer player. Who is he going to fall in love with? A black woman? Come on, of course not. Hendrik will have a white girlfriend, a blonde girlfriend, because that's what he loves. That's what he chose to love. But did he really choose? If he passed all his life seeing white models of beauty only, I don't know if there is space to choose. If you have only one option in front of you, since you are a baby, cartoons, movies, series, everything. Even the toys they give you to play, Barbie dolls. Even the dolls are white, blue eyes, green eyes. So how can you find a Black girl beautiful if you see no model of Black women who are beautiful? On the contrary, they push you examples of Black women who are angry, who are nervous, who are troublesome. So of course you're not falling for a Black woman. So this is how the media somehow program our minds. I remember the school, I had a class about the Cold War. Okay, Cold War. The war between the United States and the USSR. Yeah. So I remember the class about the Cold War, and
I
they
don't know about it.
Cold War.
Cold
in-
War.
yeah, war, guerra, and Cold Fria. Cold War.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Free war. Oh, sorry.
War.
Thank you.
Exactly. So they teach at school that when the United States defeated the USSR in the Cold War, the first thing they did in the country was to build movies, cinema. The first thing, because by the culture, you can program the way the population thinks. So they put movies, cinema, magazines, so that people could think the same way Americans think. So that's why it is so important for us Black people to at least get to know how African people see beauty, family, masculinity, matriarchal perspective. We have to see how other narratives see those things, because if we don't have other options in our perspective, we of course are going to feel that the only opinion we have is the opinion people show to us since we are born. And then that's why I brought this material about the spirit of intimacy, because here Sobonfu Somé shows us other views on love and relationship, and we are going to take a look in those views, a quick look. So basically, first here is a presentation of the book, the material, and the importance of community and being vulnerable in society when we are among equals, among the Black people. So she starts by stating that it's very important for us to connect with our origins, connect with our nature of what we feel really. And community is very important in this process, especially Black community. And she gives a very important position to rituals also in her book. So ritual of friendship, rituals of relationship, rituals of, I don't know, spiritual initiation. So this is good because when you pass through a ritual, you have a sense of before and after. But if you have no ritual, you don't have ways to measure your progress in life, because there is no mark, there is no landmark, there is nothing, you see, there is no law, there is no line drawn for you to see what is before and what is after that line. That's why rituals are so important. And then she talks about this in the book. So do you have any kinds of ritual, not only about relationships, but rituals in life? For example, when I have a very difficult situation here in Rio de Janeiro, I like going to the beach and walk around the beach, looking at the sea and thinking about the options I have. So this is the ritual I usually have when I have to make a difficult decision. So what about you? Do you have any kinds of ritual in life?
I have one.
Wow. What is a ritual?
I like to walk in the forest.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, then, and so I sit there and thinking about what can I do with this question.
Excellent. That's it. Yeah. Walking.
I normally run 5 or 10 miles around my neighborhood. Okay?
Wow.
Or ride a bike. Ride a bike is a really good, a really an excellent hobby to, I can say, how can I say, liberar in English? I don't know.
Releasing.
Release stress.
Release stress. Fantastic. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and then run and ride a bike.
Okay. What about the women, the queens? Any ritual?
Before I have a baby, I used to go to the samba and drink beer with my friends.
Okay. Yeah, samba is amazing. Excellent.
But now it's just a good shower. We feel low lights
Uh-huh.
and some music.
Amazing. Yeah, that's great too. Perfect. That's it. So she talks about the importance of rituals. By the way, the link to this presentation I'm showing you, let me share with you, so that if you would like to take a look later on, it is available. Okay, here it is. Let me share. Let me copy.
Are you recording this live?
Yeah, I'm recording the lesson because other people are gonna
Mhm.
follow later. So I put here the link in the chat so that you can take a look in the presentation. Okay, so then in the next slides, another point she makes is the importance of community. That's what we were talking about, community and rituals in relationships. Why is this important? Because in Brazil and the West in general, people say that our relationship is our problem. Nobody has nothing to do with our relationship, with our family, with ourselves. So we tend to isolate a lot. And this is where the tragedy begins, because we don't rely on spiritual wisdom. We don't rely on ancestry values. We don't rely on traditions. We don't rely on the culture of Africa. Yeah, because we think that we are enough. So when you think you are enough, you think that you need nobody, you need no support. And this is the beginning of the end, when you feel self-sufficient. Self-sufficiency is the first step to disgrace, yeah, because we need, there is a proverb which says, a person is a person through other people. It is a Bantu proverb. A person is a person through other people. So if we don't connect to other people, you cannot even be yourself. To be yourself, you need to connect to others. For example, I am practicing spiritual and African principles right now because of you. If there was nobody in this class, how would I practice those principles? I would be alone. It would be impossible for me to be talking about Sabunfu Somé now if there was no Wellington, no Isabella, no Luciano, no Joyce, no Vanderlei, and no Gabrielle here. Who would I talk to? I would be watching Netflix or whatever. You see? So we need others so that we can be our best selves, the best versions of ourselves. We can only do this through other people. Alone, it is impossible. So this is what Africa wisdom tells us. And then in the next slide, she mentions the concept of the spirit of intimacy. What does she mean by that? Basically, in a relationship, we don't have just two people. We have the 2 or 3 people, but there is also a spirit that gives energy to that relationship, and that spirit needs to be flourished, needs to be honored, needs to be cultivated. And there are ways of doing this. So what are the ways? Embracing vulnerability, which is here. So if something is difficult for you, you should tell them. You should tell the other person. You should look for help. For example, Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day is usually a very difficult day for Black people, because Black people don't get no roses. Black people don't get love letters. They don't get romantic cards. They're never chosen as the most beautiful person in the classroom at school. Black people sometimes never had a relationship, a boyfriend or a girlfriend. So Valentine's Day is a really painful day, especially for Black women. So you should have a group or a family or somewhere where you can open up this vulnerability and talk about how this date triggers negative emotions in you. But you can only do this if you have this group. That's why last class I asked you if you had any kind of group of Black people to exchange. Yeah, so there are many kinds of groups. We have study groups, we have reading groups, we have collectives, we have religious groups, you have philosophical groups, political groups, people who follow, I don't know, Pan-Africanism or Black nationalism, so they can get together to talk about those things. Honoring the sacred, and sacred here is not religious. Sacred means special. For example, there are some groups that honor Marcus Garvey. And Garvey was not a saint or a god or anything like that, but people honor him because of his contributions for Black community. And then the transcending the everyday. So we should go beyond the routine. We should see the sacred in our everyday basis.
Could you rank his name, please, on the chart?
Marcus Garvey, sorry. Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey. So this thing that we are doing now, this is a ritual. This is something sacred. Why? Because we are in 2024 rescuing principles from 5,000 years ago. This is a spiritual movement because we are traveling in time. This is what we are doing right now. This is a time travel meeting because nobody talks about those principles, especially in Brazil, Rio de Janeiro. People are talking about Big Brother, Davi, Neymar, and Luana Piovani. That's what people are talking about. Nobody's talking about Sobonfu Somé now, but we are. So we are getting connected to our African ancestry, our roots. So that's why this is a spiritual movement. Spiritual means self-care. It's not religious. In African tradition, spirituality means taking care of yourself beyond the physical level. So nobody here is taking a shower or combing your hair. We are not taking care of our body, but we are taking care of our emotions, our knowledge, our perspectives. So this is self-care, and self-care is spirituality, yeah, according to African perspectives, yeah. And then authentic connection. What is this? Is this possibility of opening up. So relationships in this perspective are not supposed to be self-cultivating movement, self-adoring, self-worship, in which the other is supposed to make you happy. No, this is not the goal of relationships in this perspective. Relationships are for you to get to know yourself better through the other. And you can only do this if the other is similar to you. Yeah, so that's why it is so important for you to be around people who are making similar movements of getting to know Black ancestry, Black civilization, Black knowledge. Yeah. Even if the person is not Black, but the importance is that the person is cultivating this direction of African ancestry. But of course, if you have people who are in the same racial group you are, they will understand better the experiences you go through. This is logical. Yeah, it's not political or ideological. And it applies to any other logic, not only race, but gender, religious identity, neurodivergence. For example, my case, I am autistic person. If I'm talking to another autistic person, they will understand better everything I say because they know exactly what I'm talking about, you know. And then she talks about the importance of ritual and the importance of letting go of traumas and past experiences because you have to open up to what is new. And then navigating this power dynamics of relationship involves limits, which is called here boundaries, where people can go. And this is something we don't have nowadays. Nowadays, people will open Instagram and talk about their wife, talk about their husband, their kids. Yesterday, I saw a woman humiliating her son on an Instagram reel because he dyed his hair blonde without her permission. So she filmed herself shaving the boy's hair and posted this on Instagram while she was humiliating the boy. So this is one example that shows that people have no limits nowadays. They will do anything for likes, comments, and shares in the social media. And this is really dangerous. And then she also talks in the book about how you can apply these principles, building a community, having rituals, and also embracing vulnerability. You have to find spots where you can embrace your vulnerability. So in conclusion, find healthy connections. That's what she tells us to do in her book. Yeah. Okay, Wellington, feel free.
So, Merton, first of all, thank you for the presentation. I'm very, very happy, and I remember author Brené Brown.
Wow.
Brené Brown is a white woman, and she said she worked with the question of vulnerability too. But let me see the name to say Sommer. Sommer says the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, in fact, we don't need Brené Brown. Sorry, Brené Brown is spectacular, but Sommer says the same thing about the concept of community and embrace the vulnerability, and because this is a permission for you be yourself when you live.
Exactly.
So it's fantastic.
Exactly. Yeah. And this goes to so many different areas. For example, my case, I am autistic. So autistic people, they normally like shaking to self-regulate. They repeat some movements. And in society, they say that you shouldn't do this because this is bad. So you have to take medicine, to take some pills to stop doing this. But if this movement makes you feel better, why would you stop? Because people don't like seeing somebody shaking. It's their problem, not yours. So you have to apply the principle of Kujichagulia and respect yourself, embrace self-determination, and be who you are, and forget about people and what they think. And this is what African ancestry teaches us. And that's why I think this is so important, especially for Black people, because Everybody is telling us all the time what we should look like, what we should do, where we should be, what we should say, what we should wear. And we have no space to be ourselves. Normally, Black people are imprisoned, even nowadays. And there is an author called Frantz Fanon, and he says that in former colonies, all the countries that used to be colonies in the past, Black people are never free unless they open up and break free from this colonial perspective. So if you continue seeing yourself the way white people see you, you are not free. And this is a very important point. And that's why I like Fanon so much, because he gives you this kind of, hints that are really powerful. Okay. Book in English? Oh, yes, I do. Spirit of Intimacy? Yes. Isabella, you want? Okay, of course. Yeah. I don't remember if I have your email, but if I don't, you can send me or here in the chat, because it will be recorded, and then I can send you the English version. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, thank you. People, it is 6:05, so we have passed 5 minutes. Do you have a question, Wellington?
No.
No?
It's time to finish.
Okay. No, feel free. If you have Luciano, no problem. Okay.
Oh, but Luciano is first.
No problem. My wife loves Fanon, and I've never had opportunity to read about it. I'd like to suggest that for next meeting, read article or material and try to discuss here would be a good idea. No, I have no idea about it. I've never read anything about Fanon, but my wife loves Fanon, but she doesn't speak in English.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just a suggestion, okay, for next meeting here.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the suggestion. This will be very powerful.
Okay, thank you.
Wellington, did you raise your hand?
Yes, because this concept of vulnerability is connected with the concept of shame too. And when we build a community, the relationship with others is raised. It's better because the comprehension of vulnerability of other change. So you are less shame, or you are don't have a shame to relation with others when you build a community. I don't know if I explained, because
That's right. Shame comes from isolation. The more you are embraced, the less you feel ashamed. This is true. And Sobon Fusomé didn't invent those principles. She's talking about the principles of the people she belongs to, which is called the Dagara people. The Dagara people are from Burkina Faso country, and she belongs to these people. People in English can be pessoas or povo, right? So here it's povo Dagara people. And then she talks about those principles of the Dagara people. That's why this is so powerful, because we're talking about principles that come from thousands of years ago. It's really powerful. So thank you so much. I have passed almost 10 minutes, but next class, I promise to be punctual. Yeah, so no homework today, only if you have the time, of course. Talk about your rituals. Yeah, if you would like to practice writing, you can write a paragraph about your most important rituals. Yeah, you can write a paragraph about that, and then you can send in the Google Classroom platform, or if you're very shy, Oh, okay. We can use the Google Classroom platform because there is the option of putting the paragraph, and then you can write a paragraph in the link. Okay, I will put this activity there in the platform, and then I will correct before next class. Okay? People, thank you so much. I hope you have an amazing week. See you next Thursday at 5 p.m. Yeah? See you. Have a great
Thank
evening.
you. See you.
Welcome.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
Goodbye,
so
guys.
much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You.
Thank you.
Vem pra bater o cartão.